Hi, my name is Kimberlee. You are now watching the Let's Meet show on Sekular.
Well, hi.
Hi.
Welcome to another episode of the Let's Meet show, brought to you by Sekular. I am your host, Miguel, aka Mike Extra. I'm excited for our guest today, y'all. Our guest, I'm gonna give you a little background story, actually, how I met you. I met you because last summer.
I was thinking about this, actually.
You were?
Yeah.
All right. I needed film for a camera. And you know what? It's just going to stay there. I needed film for a camera. And a friend of mine was like, because I think the film shops were closed, or the photography shops were closed.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine was like, yo, there's this space or place called Green Spaces. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was like, they actually have a vending machine in there with film. She's like, it costs a little more, but you can get what you want at the time you need it. And I just thought that was fire, first of all. I was like, oh, dope. I'm going to go in there.
Yes, not another film lab.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
A shout out.
Yeah.
All
Shout
right,
out
fire.
to them.
I like that. And then, so I went in there, got my film, and then I was exploring the place because I think it's a pretty dope place in there, by the way. And as I made my round, I came across this little shop, and it was a candle shop. And you were in there.
Yes.
And then I sat on the couch and started talking to you.
You were like, can I sit? And I was like, yeah, sure.
And then that's how I met you. And then we exchanged social media, I think, or maybe contacts or something. And then, yeah, I was like, we should do something creative. Because I do video, you do candles. And, just, how life be. Things don't work. Life be lifing.
Yeah.
Timing just be off. But we're here now. So with that little background story, y'all, here's the guest. She'll now introduce herself.
Excited to be here. My name is Kimberlee, and I'm the owner of Eternal Balance Candles. I do so many things because I also work at a Pilates studio in the mornings. I'm 32. And cultural background. So first of all, I'm Black. I say that first and foremost because I feel like that's at the center of a lot of my identities, being Black and being a woman. And then I also think family is a part of cultural background. So I feel like my family setup is non-traditional. So I was adopted by my great aunt and uncle. They both have passed away. So I've kind of just been doing my own thing out here for a while. I have some cousins, but I was born in California, raised here in Aurora, moved away for a few years, and then came back to Colorado. So I would say that is most of my makeup.
Your makeup?
Not all of my identities, but the things that tend to be the focus of who I am, which is, being Black and growing up in a way that's not traditional. So
that's dope.
Yeah.
Growing up in Aurora is interesting. How do you feel about that? Give me background on Aurora.
It was fine for me. I know everyone's always trying to bag on Aurora for some reason, and I'm just okay, I get you, but also it really wasn't that bad growing up. I grew up there, so some of the stuff that happened, it just seemed normal or whatever, but it was fine. I don't feel like there's anything special I can say about it besides the fact that I feel like there's more culture, or for me there was more culture in Aurora than, where do I live now? Lakewood. Lakewood, Denver. Well, some parts of Lakewood. The west side's pretty diverse, but so I grew up, mostly around people of color until I got to college. College was where I was like, oh wow. A lot more white folks than I'm used to growing up around. But other than that, I enjoyed Aurora. I knew it like the back of my hand. It's changed so much, so I don't know it as well, but it's always going to be home.
All right. Well, The reason why I asked that is I agree with you. My experience, I've been out here for almost 6 years. My experience in Colorado is Aurora has the most culture for me personally. I used to work in Aurora for 4 years almost. I used to work at the hospital, so I would always take before I had a car, I would take the 15L. And when I first moved out here, like my idea of Colorado was nothing what I thought it was. Like I came out here like twice maybe, and then I moved out here.
Yeah.
And like I was like, yeah, city, mountains, cool, or whatever. And then quickly I learned, there's way more to Denver and Colorado than that.
Yeah.
So but I loved it though. I always loved Aurora, especially going right there through Colfax. You just see, like I'm from New York, and I would see some of the most craziest things going through that area. And I'm like, all right, this is a city. They got things going on out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. I don't know why I did that. It's funny because I don't like when the way I grew up in New York, I grew up in the projects. And when I tell people that, they're like, oh, how was that? And I'm like exactly like you said, it was regular to me.
Yeah.
Like, that was just regular for me. So
exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
So Eternal Balances, that's what it's called?
Eternal Balance Candles.
Eternal Balance Candles. My bad. Thank you for
good.
correcting me. Give us a little background on that.
Yeah, so I started Eternal Balance Candles, mostly launched in 2019. But the backstory is I was living in Missouri from 2016 to 2017. So I have my master's degree. So after I got my master's degree, I moved back here for like a hot second and then moved to Missouri, where I got my first full-time position outside of graduate school, working as an academic coach for a TRIO program. And that program supports first-generation college students, low-income students, students with disabilities, and I was very passionate about supporting first-generation college students because I'm a first-generation college student, and just really wanted to help them navigate the school system, right? Because it's, at the end of the day, an oppressive system, and it's challenging when you don't have anyone that has come before you to learn how to navigate that. So I moved to Missouri, super excited about that position, without really thinking about what the environment was going to be like, because I was living in Maryville, Missouri. And if you're familiar, it's a very small town. It was around like 6,000 people when the students aren't there. When the students are there, it's around 12,000, 13,000 people. But outside of that, it's very small, very white. Just think Trump country, basically. And well, I do miss my rent though, because I had a 2-bedroom, really nice for $550 a month.
Fire.
But everything else was not the best. And so I was working in that program mostly with white coworkers who just made things challenging, dealing with a lot of microaggressions, a lot of racism in and outside of the office. And so that made me extremely depressed. And if anyone, I mean, you've moved states, like it can be lonely when you move to a different state and you don't really know anybody. And as an adult, it's harder to make friendships. So I didn't really have any friends. I had a couple of friends, and so then I was like drinking every day, which to some people, I was just drinking a glass of wine. To some people that might not be a lot, but like when it's an everyday thing, I was like, okay, something's going on here. Was very depressed. And there were a few things that kind of kicked in for me. It was one, drinking every day. And I had a friend, because one day I like drank a whole bottle of wine and then was talking about how I was listening to Britney Spears, because you gotta play the throwback Britney Spears. I love her.
Hit Me Baby One More Time.
Yes, exactly. And she was like, are you okay? And I was like, actually, I'm not okay.
Did you play I'm a Slave for You?
I don't remember.
I love that one. That's a good
but,
one. Anyways, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that happened, and we used to have to do these health tests every year. And from the first year I got there to the second year, my health like drastically declined when I looked at that test. So that was like a second thing that was like, what the fuck's going on? But I didn't trust myself to actually see a therapist where I was at. I was dealing with like a chronic neck issue at the time. And so I was going to see an acupuncturist that was like an hour and a half away. And she kind of acted as my therapist. But I got into meditation because as I was going through all of this, I would go into the office and just have a visceral, like physical response to being there. And it caused a lot of anxiety, like almost panic attacks, just like walking in there every day because I was fighting for myself. In and out of HR, just trying to figure things out, trying to resolve everything, and just dealing with a very difficult coworker. And from there, so once I got into meditation and actually had a routine practice with it, I would use candles to deepen my practice, either create an ambiance, whatever, and then put them around my house. And I was like, okay, I would love to be able to provide this type of environment to other people, but really stress mental health and like be okay with talking to people about how I struggle with depression from time to time, because I think it's very important to be able to talk about those things to but to get rid of the stigma as much as possible. And so that's how I thought of Eternal Balance Candles. It wasn't going to be Eternal Balance Candles. I thought of the name Vibe Higher, but it just wasn't sitting with me. So it took a bit. I moved back here because there was no way I was going to start a business there. I didn't know anything about starting a business and put it on the back burner. But then one day my friend and coworker introduced me to Rocky Mountain Microfinance Institute, and I went through their business boot camp program and started my business from there. So it's just been rocking with it ever since.
All right. First, I'm gonna say thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I agree with you on in order to overcome like our depression and things we struggle with as humans, talking about it and sharing that with other people is definitely a form of helping ourselves overcome these things and challenges we deal with. I've dealt with that myself, and I feel like vocalizing it, being open about it helps out. So that's powerful. Not a lot of people are willing to share these deep, dark things about themselves because of pride, ego, or how they'll be perceived. But little do they know it's only going to make things worse. So
right.
Thank you for sharing and like making your brand about that, because it's super important. Second, thanks for not calling your brand Vibes Higher.
Yes,
you probably wouldn't be here if it was called Vibes Higher.
It was not working out. Like,
yeah, I do. I get the word vibes and all that, but I feel like it's just loosely used. So it's like, thank you for not doing that. And then the other thing is, you've done a lot of schooling, by the way. Like, that's crazy. I dislike school with a passion. Like, so I applaud you for being able to have that discipline to like obtain and receive information and utilize it to better yourself. That's crazy.
Thank you.
But I feel like I still have more questions. All right, so you got to Colorado, you started Eternal Balance Candles, right? What were the next steps after that? Like, what did you like? How did you learn how to make candles? You know, like, was it in? Because now you have a space, but like before, I'm sure you had to start in the crib or something. Like, let's touch on that real quick.
Yeah. So once I got connected with the program, well, actually, no, it was before I got connected with the program. I was like, let me just see if I can learn how to make candles. So I attended a candle making class. I won't say their name because they did take one of my fragrances, and I was going to work with her, or was hoping to work with her at some point. But anyways, I was taking her class, and my candle came out okay, but I was like, I'm not gonna learn unless I do all of this myself, because I was watching countless videos and I was like, I just need to be hands-on with this. So I just jumped in. I don't even know where the money came from. Like, when I was looking back, I spent like $2,000 on getting everything, and I was like, I don't know where this $2,000 came from, because I was barely making any money at the time. And so I just jumped right in, made some, and then I would pass them out to my coworkers, and I'd be like, hey, can you burn this at home? Let me know if you like it. I still have people that carry around like what my candle looked like when I very first came out with it, but they loved it. And so I was like, okay, so I've done that, kind of done some testing, and then when I got connected with that program, they were like, okay, you just want to see if there's kind of a market for it, which is what I was already doing. And this was in 2018. And so from there, once I graduated from the program, just started selling my stuff and making all of my candles at home, and now I've outgrown my home now that I have a shop. I feel like the shop kind of forced me to do that. But yeah, it's been good. I enjoy making candles a lot. It was a lot harder in the beginning than I thought. Even now I like make mistakes, but I'm a lot more patient with those mistakes. But candle making was not as easy as I thought it was going to be when I had first started. Because when you see people and you watch them, the process looks pretty easy, but there's a science to it.
No, that's true. And I'm glad you touched on, like, you can only watch with so many videos or do with so many things. This is the big thing I push on my brand. It's just like the act of doing, or just going out there and doing it and being accepting you're going to make mistakes or you're going to fail. Like nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I like that you touched on that, because it's like I'm guilty of that myself. Or like I know mad people, they'll be like, nah, I'm just trying to get it perfect. Or like I used to watch mad videos on lighting or all different things. And it's like you're not going to actually get it, bro, until you do it.
Right.
And I like that somehow you got the money, and like if you're willing to do something, y'all, like don't worry about all the extra stuff. It'll happen. You'll work an extra shift, or you'll get a second, whatever we'll do to get the stuff you need to create. I'm big on just creating. So
Same.
Thanks for sharing
too.
That's like, that means a lot to me, because it's something I'm pushing with my brand right now, just like creating. Don't worry about all the extras. So
and I struggle with perfectionism. So like I'm not knocking anyone for, wanting things to be perfect, because they, you want to look a certain way, or you care too much about what other people are going to think. And that's very much me. But, like you said, sometimes you just have to do it. Everything else will fall into place later.
Yeah, and the only way you'll know is like you'll have to do it, make the mistake, and then obviously you'll review. Like I look at all my videos, all my beats, whatever, and I'm like, I want to do this different next time. And then you apply that, and then you'll gradually get to the place you're trying to go. Like you see me now, is like trying to line up the year candle with like the third. Like, oh, that's relax, bro. It's not that serious. But to me, it is.
Yeah.
So that's dope. Damn, that's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
So then how'd you find out you were home? Were you somewhere else before you got the green spaces?
Yes. So I did have some wholesale accounts. Some of those businesses have, just closed for their own reasons. But I was in a shop called False Ego. So my friend Javon, he owned an eco-friendly clothing brand, very dope clothing brand called False Ego. And I met him actually when I was still working in higher education, because it was Black History Month. Instead of doing what most people tend to do every Black History Month, I wanted to do a panel with Black businesses, so students can, just explore their entrepreneurship. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but just explore that. And that's how I met Javon, because he was last minute. I had someone drop out, and I was asking a friend, I was like, hey, do you know anyone else that's an entrepreneur that I can have on this panel? Because I was trying to make sure that it was pretty diverse for the most part. And so Javon was able to come, and he was talking to me. He was like, yeah, so I'm planning on opening up a shop. I want to have other vendors in there and be able to do consignment to support other small businesses. And I was like, yeah, let's get together. Like, let's talk about what that's going to look like. And when we had met up, when he finally got the spot, he was like, I thought you weren't going to like be in on this and didn't want to do it. And I was like, no, I just wanted to see what your vision was for the layout, just like as a creative person myself, I just wanted that visual, and was able to do that with him. And he had his shop for a little over a year before becoming the CEO of Green Spaces. So he no longer does False Ego, but I was one of the top vendors in the shop. And so when he got this space at Green Spaces, he was like, what do you envision for yourself for Eternal Balance Candles? Like, do you see yourself owning a shop? And this was before I even knew about Green Spaces. I remember specifically we were in the back, and I was bawling my eyes out because I left my last job too, because it became a toxic environment. And I was like, yeah, I see myself owning a shop. At one point I didn't, because as a business owner, I well, as a new business owner, not having a business background, I just didn't feel as confident. And then I was like, I don't really want all of the overhead. But we were able to, figure out what was going to work for our relationship. And now I'm here a year later owning the shop. Yeah.
Wow, that's fire. Damn, that's dope. I get you though. Like when I think of like a lot of things, I always think like, what's the overhead gonna be like? And that's like a lot of our concerns, like when we got bills to pay and stuff like that. Nobody want to put themselves in debt.
Right.
Yeah, I agree that when I saw my experience moving out here, I kind of relate to you a lot. Like out here, I feel like it's really divided. I always tell people this on every episode. It's gonna be a common thing, y'all. I came from New York, so my idea of being in New York, like a lot of the cultures were not even a lot, just like Latin and melanated culture was like just one-on-one. Like there was no separation between us for the most part. I'm sure there is in certain areas, but then coming out here, I like, this is my life. I've known that for 28 years. I moved out here when I was 28. And coming out here, I'm like, it's gonna be the same thing. No, it's not. Out here, the Hispanic and melanated community are very separated, in my opinion, and also the white community, because there's a huge white community out here too. So it's interesting to hear that you just being from out here as well too, you've experienced that, not only just in Missouri but out here too. How do you navigate that?
Well, for me, I just try to like support the people that are gonna support me, but also like be open to collaborating with other people. Like for me, I'm not purposely like separating myself from others. I know that my business has been successful and is what it is because of the diverse group of people that have been able to support me. But when I started my business, I was talking about this a little bit, I'm more introverted, and I knew that was going to be the main thing that I needed to work on if I was going to be successful and get my name out there. And so when I started my business, I started going to different events so people could know my name. So people either remember my name as Kimberlee, or they're like, oh, you're the candle girl. Like, oh my gosh, your candles are so fire. And that has helped me build community, especially when it comes to the business community. Because I was just talking about this with my friend yesterday. She was like, I just feel like it's siloed, and unless you're really in with someone, people are playing favorites. And I can't say that I've experienced it that much, or maybe I just don't focus on it as much. There are a few Black-owned candle businesses, but
out here?
Yeah. Right. Javon and I had a conversation once. I don't know if he remembers. I was like, I know people in business are like, you need to think about your competition so you can figure out what you need to do. And I think I do that in general, but I was like, I don't think about my competition, especially the person that I am. Like, I can get fixated on what other people are doing and comparing myself that I'm like, I'm just not even going to worry. And so that's been my experience. But as far as navigating it, I feel like I'm in so many different communities that it's just been easy for me to be like, okay, I'm going to support you in this thing that you're doing, and vice versa. Like, I feel like I have a very good, diverse group of friends, whether it's like the Latino community or the Black community or even a few white people, not many, and it's mostly women. I will say that. I feel like where it's siloed for me is I feel like it's challenging for me to do business with other men.
Dope. Yo, there's a lot to talk to you about. So, side note, your business though, it's not like it's not for one culture though, which is a beautiful thing. Right. Like everybody loves candles, you know what I mean? Like when I've been thinking about things like I want to make for Sekular, like, and what are like practical everyday things people could use. Like, I just don't want to make something that's just like, bro, I can't, like, I'm not paying for that. I can't use that. Yeah. But a candle is like, yo, everyone could use a candle. You could be any culture, and like, who doesn't like to smell good? And I think, little do you know, men just be weird sometimes with like interacting with shorties. I don't know why. But like, come on, men. Like, y'all know y'all want y'all crib to smell good. You know you want the smell goods. And I don't know no men making candles. It usually be like a shorty type thing, you know? So it's like, yo, build with the shorties. Get your crib smelling right, you know what I mean? Get the candles.
Yeah, holla at me. Like, your crib candles will be smelling right.
Yeah. Like, make sure you let it burn for 4 hours at first. You don't want to mess up the wick.
No, not at all.
But that's dope. Thanks for sharing that. This is going to be, maybe I should I have questions, but let's see, this is why I have questions, but sometimes I don't need them.
Yeah, just do your thing. Whatever.
Episode focusing goals, whatever the vibe is. Whatever the balance is.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me get to some of these questions, y'all. It'd be important. All right, so first question I'm going to ask you is, the question here is, what 2 brands do you admire? And damn, this resonates with me a lot. So what is the brand you admire?
Yeah, so this was hard for me to choose because I feel like there's a lot of brands that I admire. I put Nike, and I would say Nike is a newer like admiration. I've always liked Nike, but I think once I was able to go to Nike headquarters in LA for an event to vend, you know, and sell some of my candles and get a tour there, I had a deeper appreciation. Like, I just didn't realize how focused Nike is as far as attention to detail, and just like everything they do with their advertisements, with who they work with, and their different offices. Granted, I've only seen the LA one, but I can imagine most of them, wherever they are, well, Oregon and, you know, other places, have that same attention to detail. And I really like that because I feel like I'm a very detailed person. And I like to be intentional. And I feel like when you are intentional, the details come. And then other businesses that I admire are mostly my friends' businesses, other women in my life who are doing the damn thing. So Miga's Coffee, my friend Mari, she just opened finally after just a lot of trials. And just like seeing her navigate that, and then seeing how many people have shown up and supported her. I love that. And, you know, my friend Indigo, she owns an event planning company called Aura and Frame, and how personable she is, but she's very much that person who's attention to detail as well. I've worked with her and she knows I can be very particular, almost to a fault. Because she's like, yo, Kim needs to calm down, especially when she did my soft opening. But I appreciate, you know, that she's like down for the ride, and she's really down to create experiences that people are going to be able to remember and enjoy. And it, you know, goes beyond just like a simple event. And then my friend Bree, who owns Black and Blossomed, like, just, I remember meeting Bree at a I think it was a False Ego event. Either way, she was on the rooftop where False Ego used to be, and there was this event, and she was vending, and she was like, oh yeah, like, you're the one who owns the candles. And I was like, yeah. And it was like so nice that, you know, she knew about me, and then we've been able to grow this great relationship. And she does so many great things, and she's, you know, Dr. Bree, and a therapist, and very much into the mental health space, which I appreciate. And then my friend Kelsey, who owns Obscura Ink Tattoo. I recently met Kelsey. We've known each other for maybe like 5 months now, 6 months, but we've been able to like start growing a close relationship just like through conversation and her journey to being in green spaces. And it's just been beautiful to see, but also to have someone, because things are a challenge for me right now. Like, I'm very much in this struggle period, and it's nice to have conversations that are around what we hope to have in the future without thinking about like where I'm at now and whether I can obtain those things or not. You know, it's easy to have that. So, yeah, so those are some of them. I hope I don't miss any. Don't get come for me, friends, if I missed you. I promise. I just like admire a lot of what the women in my life do.
That's fire.
So.
Yeah, and all these businesses, they're in green spaces, right, for the most part?
Yes. All of these businesses are in green spaces, so come holla at us.
That's dope. Sounds like green space is supporting a lot of women-owned businesses. Yeah, it's a nice space. I like that space, and I like what sounds like they're doing awesome things there. I'm all for supporting women, because back in the days, a lot of businesses was just like men.
Yep.
Which it might be a reason why, like, this is just me thinking out loud or talking, why you probably be having some struggles with like doing business with men, because a lot of men, they be prideful and like not a lot of men are at a place where like they're willing to let or accept that women are just as equal as men. A lot of men, they probably come from families where they were taught or to believe or seen that men were like the ones doing things, you know what I mean? And as you get older, you have to like deprogram what you've been programmed, you know what I mean? Like, and teach yourself like, nah, that's toxic, that wasn't healthy, what we grew up seeing, and we should, women are just as equal as men, so I love that, to see that they're doing that there. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and some of them just be on weird vibes, like I try to do business and then they want more, and it's like, I'm just meeting up with you to do business. I was just tweeting about this today. I was like, I think it was a couple years ago, I was so frustrated because I was like, I've worked with a lot of women up to this point, and I want to be able to expand, because I think men at the end of the day have some privilege that would help my business. So like, how do I gain some connections to help move my business forward? I go to a lot of networking events, and that's probably why people are like, what, you're an introvert? No, literally, I'm standing in the corner at a table and people come up to me. So don't think I'm out here talking to everybody. Most people gravitate towards me. But anyways, was at multiple networking events, just trying to connect with men. And I remember one person specifically, he was like, hey, you want to meet up for drinks after this? And I was like, okay, cool. Like, we can further talk about what we were already talking about in terms of business. And it became like, he thought we were on a date, and I was just, so it's just like stuff like that I've dealt with, where I'm just like, okay, forget it.
Nah, you're right. That's a toxic thing of men. So I don't know how to break that down.
Yeah,
but
like,
no. We be like that, what I mean? I'm not saying I'm like that, but I'm pretty sure in my past I have been. I'm not gonna be fake, but it's like, that's a whole other conversation for like us. I touched on this on my own like Instagram. I'll just get into it quick. Where like us men, where like a lot of men are champion to like watch like porn and things like that, and then we tend to like look at women as like objects and these kind of things. And it's like another thing I was just talking about, like we have to deprogram these things we've programmed ourselves to think and believe, and like actually look at women as equals, what I mean? Not just like this thing. And it's kind of deep for right now, but like it's true though, what I mean? And it's like, so that makes sense why you probably struggle with things like that. Damn, thanks for sharing that. That's deep.
But shout out to Michael though. He helped me with my logo, because I changed my logo up, and he's been good to work with.
Is it on there?
Yes.
Show it.
Yes. It's a little like transparent, but I don't know if you could see it.
Yeah, you can.
People come in the shop all the time.
Oh, is it on the top though?
No, this is a different.
Oh, okay.
This is different. But people come in the shop all the time and they're like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. And I'm like, yeah, shout out to Michael.
All right, shout out to Michael. Thank you, Michael, for being a good man out here, not being a creep. And to you other men, stop being creeps, yo.
Yes,
come on, let's grow.
We're trying to level up. That's it.
That's dope. I think you touched on before that I want to touch on, because I love what you're doing with your brand, and I felt like it's a way to be to unite different cultures. I wanted to say like that. That's how I came up with sekular. Because like my experiences out here was just like everyone's so divided, and like I just want to love everyone. Yeah. So my goal is to just like build my own community, I guess, since I can't find a community of like just anyone who wants to be up with it. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter your culture, your background, what you look like. Like we here to love you. So if you're watching this and I don't know you, yo, reach out to me. I love you. I love everyone. Yeah. Trying to be more Christ-like. Anyways, thanks for sharing that. The Nike thing is fire too, because we got way off from that. But the Nike thing, I admire Nike. That's one of my favorite brands too. They're like real minimal, clean. They're about like light. Like a lot of their marketing is like lifestyle stuff, and it's like something that really just resonates with me. High quality, clean, not too much. Some brands be doing too much. Do less, y'all. Less is more. So thank you. Now we're gonna touch on your cultural background, because this is like what I was saying earlier. Culture is weird to me because like I feel like sometimes culture could be a form of division, but it can also be a way to bring us together. Like, it's also to know everyone's unique individual culture, how that influenced their life and their life decisions and stuff like that, but how we can bring that all together and share things with each other's cultures, not steal things. Say that. Share things. So yeah, give us a little background on your culture. Like you said, you were raised in Cali, and how that has made you the woman you are this day.
Yeah, so I was born in California and I was raised out here, but I grew up with my great aunt and uncle. I call my great aunt my mom. And then Larry, he married into the family. He was white, actually. So people are like, oh, that makes so much sense how you are. I'm like, what does that mean? Okay, I'm offended. But anyways, they have both passed. So my mom passed away when I was around 9 years old. And then Larry, he passed away after my first semester of college. And so that's very much shaped a lot of my life because I've had to navigate it alone for a while. I'm 32 now. Most people think I'm like 25.
Yeah, you look mad young.
I'm 32, turning 33 this year, so exciting. So I didn't grow up with my biological mom because she was heavily into drugs and alcohol. And so I ended up with some family for a little bit in California, some cousins. They took care of me until they were able to find someone that would want to take care of me. And so that's how I ended up with my great aunt and uncle out here. And I'm actually grateful. So I have 7 siblings, and some of them grew up with family members in Arizona. And while I love my family, it just didn't seem like the best environment. Because I believe I was the only one out of all my siblings born in California. Not sure how that happened, but I'm grateful. Even after all of the shit that I've been through, I'm still grateful that I ended up out here. So that's part of it, because I don't talk about my parents as much. And so when people talk about it or mention it, or Mother's Day is coming up and they're like, oh, are you celebrating Mother's Day? I'm just like, it's another day to me. I don't even remember when it is. But I do still feel like family is important to me. It didn't always used to be because of the dynamics that I grew up in. But now I'm very much so like, how can I visit my family more often? So I try to go out to California every year. But it was, fine being raised out here. We had more family out here, and most of them have moved to California. So I have that dynamic. And then, just navigating the world as a Black woman. Like, I feel like that's pretty center to who I am. I enjoy being a Black woman, and think about my identity just as a woman sometimes too. While it can be a challenge, I don't think I would have liked to be born a man at all. So love y'all, but y'all can be a lot. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about being a Black woman and like being in the corporate world. That's mostly been on my mind lately, because I feel like I'm in this place where I've been defeated, because I always used to be someone who was like, okay, yes, I'm Black, and I know that there's these things that are against me, but I'm just gonna like keep pushing forward. But I feel like I've hit a wall at this point, especially with like some of my different positions that I've had and the experiences that I've went through, where I'm just like, fuck, I feel defeated. Like, I want to just run my business, but most people know running your own business is hard, especially when you're building it from the ground up. So you don't have all the funds, you still got to pay your bills. So you're doing multiple other things. Like, at one point I had 3 jobs and I was running myself in the ground, and I'm working on trying to find another job now. And I'm afraid, not necessarily with this position that I'm trying to get, but I'm afraid of the going back into the corporate world so that way I can find some stability because of the experiences that I've had as a Black woman. Like, we're just not safe in office, and it's been a challenge, and it sucks because I feel like quite a few of my friends are going through similar things. I don't even know if that's getting off track, but like,
it doesn't matter.
That's what I've been talking about with my therapist
Yeah.
lately. And I was like, I have never in my life like felt so defeated, because I've always been this go-getter, someone who's doesn't have anything to fall back on and has to keep going. You know, that's why I did so much school. Like, I didn't really have anything else. And so I kept, you know, doing that until it was like, okay, now I kind of got to get out into the real world. And I hate when people say real world and they feel like, oh, you're in college, you're not in the real world, when there's a lot of us, specifically BIPOC folks, that are in the real world and dealing with a lot of things because of the way systems are set up. So, yeah.
No, that all ties in. We were talking about
Yeah.
culture and how your culture affects you as you have grown and where you're trying to go. I do have a question on that. So let's say you do that fear goes away, boom, bow. Now you're moving into the corporate world the way you want to. How do you balance that with running the candle company?
Yeah, I can't say that I've figured it out, because I'm like, okay, it would go part-time again. Yeah, I don't have an answer for it, because I feel like I'm still trying to figure out how that's gonna go. I have a friend that's down to help me at the shop, who already works at Green Spaces. Shout out to Vine, because she knows the position I'm in. She knows that like getting another job is what I need right now. And I've been struggling a lot with what that looks like for my candle company, because I'm just exhausted. You know, I know what I need to get to that next level, and it's been hard trying to obtain those things, which is, you know, help people making candles, people in my shop, but also being able to push out my brand via marketing and advertising. So we'll see what it looks like. I'm not trying to put a specific plan on it. I think I'm just gonna ride the wave like I have been, which I feel is always a new thing for me. Even though I've been working on not being such a planner, it's still hard for me to let go of control. But at the end of the day, some of these things are not in my control, so I do have to just ride the wave. So we'll see.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is hard, y'all. That's why, if y'all know me now, I work 2 jobs myself. I work 65-hour weeks, and I try to do secular things as much as I can.
Yeah.
That sounds funny. People in church are like, yeah, you do secular things. Anyways, actually I don't, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not easy. So I can relate to that. Like, you know, because like I got rent to pay, I got bills to pay. I want to grow my brand in certain ways, but I need certain things, certain equipment or whatever it is. Like now with trying to find another space, that's going to be money out my pocket. So it's like I have to work. But it's a grind though, you know. Hard work pays off. Just know that.
Yeah.
I see you.
That's what I'm trying to keep in mind. It's hard sometimes, but
All right, cool. I have some other questions.
okay.
You know, it's so funny. I like the submission form that people do online. It's like I don't even use that anymore. But actually, yeah, let's use one of those questions because we haven't touched on this. This is another side of you. What is your creative expression? And you wrote
expression. I don't even remember what I wrote for this, but
you wrote writing at that time.
okay, that's valid. I do write a lot. But I feel like I don't have any particular like medium when it comes to art. But journaling or writing is a pretty big one for me. So I journal a lot, and then I also write poetry, which is not something that a lot of people know about. When I tell people this, they're like, what, you write poetry? Like, why don't you ever share? And I feel like it's a lot. Like there's a lot of feelings and emotions in my poetry, and I tend to be a vulnerable person, but for some reason that's one where I just haven't been able to consistently share. Like on my Instagram, I used to share my poetry here and there. All of that is archived now. I think I've shared one video on TikTok, But journaling has been a big piece for me because that was a way for me to get through the shit that I was going through. I've been journaling since high school, and at the time before I was actually an advocate for therapy, I was against therapy because I was like, a therapist is not going to help me put food on the table or pay my rent right now. So like, why do I need to talk to somebody? And so I was like, but I need to get these feelings out somehow. And that's how I started journaling and writing poetry. So a lot of my poetry in the beginning was very sad and depressing. A lot of suicidal thoughts, which I'm very open, to talking about, because I feel like suicide's the part of mental health that no one really wants to talk about. I think more people are talking about mental health, and I love that. But I feel like suicide, people are like, oh no, like, why? Like, don't think that, or don't say that, or don't talk about that. And it's like, no, we actually need to normalize this so we can start having more conversations and help people through like having those feelings. And so that was a lot of my poetry then. A lot of it now has to do with like, a lot of it is just like life experiences, but I would say it's mostly centered around romantic love. Like, I can't say that I've ever been in love, and I haven't been in a lot of relationships. I had one relationship that was literally like a decade ago, and sometimes I'm embarrassed saying that, and then other times I'm like, I don't really care. So I'm like, okay, I plan to write a poetry book centered around that, but it's mostly been my experiences. So if you've ever broken my heart, you're in there, and I'm saying some shit about you. So yeah, that's like most medium, or like my main medium, if I said I had one when it comes to my creative side. But I do draw. Like, a lot of people don't know that either, because I do it once in a blue moon. But I was actually drawing with one of my friends a couple weeks ago, which was really nice, because I think, when it comes to creativity, if you like started out as a really creative child, that kind of goes away. Like, the world tries to make you a particular person, and it just strips that, like, if it didn't strip that, I probably would be like a painter or something. But I kind of stopped drawing at some point, and so I do it occasionally. It's like every 3-5 years or something. Like, it's not very often at all. But I do like to draw. I'm not the best drawer, but I'm not the worst either. And anything else I can get my hands on. Like, I just feel like I'm very creative. And once I have an idea, I try to run with it. Like, I have a whole vanity that I restored, and people were like, I feel like I'm on an episode of HGTV when I did it. And they were like, you should do this all the time. You should flip stuff. And I was just like, no, I broke my back doing that. But yeah, so creativity is, I try not to place myself in one box when it comes to that. I just go wherever my mind wants to take me. Just like some of the couple of photos that I have on my Instagram were just like photo shoot ideas that I had, and that my mind was like, okay, let's carry this out. So
that's dope.
Yeah.
You don't I could ask you a million questions just based off that. But you don't think your candles are like a form of a creative expression?
Oh, I do for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I know I didn't like really mention that, but I do. And that's why I like it. I think that, I can play with fragrances. Some of them are, fragrances that I use as is. And then some of them are my own creations. Like, both of the candles that I bought were like fragrances that I put together. And, you can only get them at Eternal Violence Candles, I'm sure someone could, like, if they really dug and tried to figure out the company I use and whatever, they could make them. But I like that side of it. And then when I come out with exclusive drops, I try to get a little creative with it. which is why I have the design on the lid to add some creativity, and I can always change up that design too. And then for like my Valentine's candles, I used like different molds to create a beautiful look that people really like when it comes to that. So yeah, I definitely think the process is creative, and the process also teaches me a lot of patience, because you have to have patience.
My bad.
Go ahead.
You have to have patience. You say, I kind of spoke her. My bad. Trying to get better at this, which I'm doing better. But anyways, also the way you market your candles, I like you do those little photo shoots. I've seen some of your photo shoots you've done with the candles and like how the people are placed or whatever. I was like, oh, that looks mad fire.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoy being a creative director. And which kind of bleeds into what I just talked about, having those different photos, and because I have an idea and I'm like, okay, I know how I want to carry this out, so I enjoy that a lot. And I have a photographer that I work with. Her name's Sierra, very dope photographer, another person I admire who owns Vows on the Run. But I think her aesthetic and the way she edits her photos really go well with my brand. But yeah, all of those, I'm very, very proud of the last photo shoot I did, because it was intentional the way that I had set it up. Who I had for the photo shoot was very intentional. What I had them doing was very intentional, which put me in a panic when people were canceling, because I was like, no, I had you for this very specific thing. And it was all based on people's personalities and what I know about them. And I think that's how the photo shoot ended up being so successful, even down to like the place I picked and making sure it was the right vibe.
You brought up, damn, there's like things, so many things. Anyways, you brought up people canceling. That's something I've experienced with this show. I had like some people lined up to cancel. Like, how do you still push forward? Because like me, I had this vision in mind, like, no, that's gonna be this episode. But it's like, bro, you gotta drop that. You gotta keep it moving. So how do you push forward when you have this vision in mind and then things happen, life happens, you know, no personal feelings towards those people, but how do you push forward?
I mean, some of the shots came out in ways that, like, you know, I had some people fill in last minute and I didn't get a chance to like really get to know them. Very grateful that they, you know, volunteered. But I guess most of how I push through it is, at the end of the day, no one knows until you put it out there what you were going to do. So like, if I don't have that person, no one knows that person was even going to be there. And I try to operate in that way when it comes to the photo shoots I do, when it comes to events. Because for us on our side, we might be panicking or we have some anxiety around it. Especially when like people do events, but it's like no one knows unless you let them know. Like I could be like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to have this person and then they didn't show up and then this went wrong. But if I just do whatever it is that I planned to do and keep moving forward, so like not have that episode with the person and think of the next idea and have the next person, no one knows that you weren't gonna have that person. So that's how I look at it. I don't remember where I learned that from. I feel like I picked that up from someone, but someone was just told me once, like, no one knows behind the scenes what you were supposed to do. So just keep moving forward and don't worry about it.
So there's two things that I want to tie that in with your poetry, but there's also power in sharing that with people. Like, hey, that didn't work out, but I'm still pushing forward. I'm still doing that. Sure. And like people, they like, a lot of people, they're not going to actually go out and do things, if I'm being honest. Like some people want to do things, but they're not going to actually do it. So like a lot of people look to us creators who are doing things, and like we're like their motivation or whatever it may be. And the way I'm tying that in with your poetry is like I would love to see you publish that, or even like your other poetry that you said was real dark and stuff. Like you never know who that might resonate with. I'm not telling you to, hey, go publish it, right? But just in terms of like you said, not a lot of people speak on these certain things or show these certain things. So I think the power in sharing those things is just like, you never know who it might speak to or resonate with, and it might help them in a way that we don't think. So I think I want to encourage you and encourage myself to just show those vulnerable sides, those sides that we might have not been happy with or not been able to share, that we should share those, because those are also very powerful. And like, because everything on social media looks perfect, you know what I mean? But that's not life, you know what I mean? No. Life don't be perfect. That's why I sent you the little disclaimer. It's not a disclaimer. It's like I've been learning to send because like some of the first guys just like, I didn't like how I said this, that. I'm like, bro, in normal life we say like, pero, or like, you know. So yeah, I think that the power in showing like the imperfections of life speak to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm still working on that. Like I definitely preach being vulnerable, and I think I'm vulnerable in some aspects, but I'm still working on being seen. So I haven't shared, like, you know, some of those parts of myself. Some people, but you know, not everyone.
You just did.
Yeah.
So you're being pretty vulnerable. Thanks for sharing.
I know.
That.
Now people know. Don't be asking me about my poetry.
Right?
No, I'm
like,
just
yo,
kidding.
what's good? When you gonna drop that book?
Yeah. I go to open mics sometimes too, but then I don't get up there. One of these days, I'm gonna get up there.
All right. So I'm gonna jump to one section. I do this thing called the ChatGPT generated question, where I utilize artificial intelligence to help generate a question. I'm big against AI, but I'm trying to use it. All right. So the ChatGPT generated question is, what unique scents or combinations inspire your candle making process, and how do you source or create these fragrances?
Oh, wow. Which scents inspire? I think, okay, I'm gonna somewhat touch on that question, but be very particular about my candle Sacred Solitude that I brought today, because that's an actual fragrance that I made for myself. So it has jasmine in it, and I named it Sacred Solitude because I feel like there's power in embracing solitude. And also knowing like there is a time for you to kind of look inward and be okay with either chilling by yourself or whatever that looks like. And a lot of that came from being lonely and feeling like this deep loneliness. I feel like it was 22 leading into a lot of 23, where I was feeling very, very lonely.
The year or the age?
The year.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah, the year. And I decided I was going to deal with that in a way that I hadn't before. So like whenever I'm feeling lonely, and some people can probably resonate, I'm either like drinking more, or I go out more with friends and drink more, or just given devices that ignore the way that I'm feeling. But I was like, okay, I'm going to drink less. I'm going to go out with my friends, but be very intentional about like the community that I go out with and where we go and the things that I do. And if I do decide to drink, it's not, you know, enough trying to get rid of like the way that I'm feeling and stuff like that. Or I would also like seek attention a lot. And so I was doing that less as well. And most of that attention was like seek attention from men, because some of that loneliness was like not having a romantic partner for me. I was doing all of that less, and it hit harder, and it like really forced me to go inward and be okay with where I was, and you know, just deal with that in a way that I haven't before. And so I was like, okay, there's this sacred solitude to that, and how do I embrace that? And so that candle was made for me. So what inspires me really is just the vibe and the intention. I feel like I'm saying vibe a lot. We were talking about that. My bad. We're not saying vibe.
No, you're good.
The intention behind my candles is, you know, mostly what emotion can it evoke, or what is the focus of it. So like my confidence candle, I was telling people this yesterday, it is a more masculine scent. I believe each person navigates the world with their masculine and feminine energy, and I believe confidence comes from a more masculine energy. And so that's really where that, you know, candle inspiration came from. So it's a more masculine scent for that reason, for you to know that like to have that confidence. So yeah.
Damn, there's a lot of depth to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Solitude, y'all. That's important. I've been trying to focus. Being alone is really hard. I mean, you touched on things that like I've struggled with too, or like I've been learning for many. So my thing used to be I would smoke weed. I never really like drinking, not really into other things, but weed would be my thing.
Yeah.
And I would always use weed to like not face the emotions I would want to face. So I would just smoke and just be high or like numb myself from smoking weed. And then now it's been months since I've smoked, and like emotions come up, and it's like hard sometimes to like why am I feeling like this, or why am I thinking this, or whatever. And it's like, nah, this is what normal humans go through. But as humans, not even just humans, like just like the way society is, or like the media, or things that are like shown to us, you know, like they celebrate getting high, getting drunk, doing drugs, especially like hip hop these days. They like celebrate doing these hardcore drugs and stuff. And it's like and then they push that onto the youth, and then you grow up thinking like, oh, this is normal, this is what you do, this is I'm lit, I'm living the life,
this is cool.
And it's like kind of what I was talking about earlier, like as you get to a certain age in life, and we're close in age so you can really resonate with this, like you kind of have to like deprogram yourself, you know, like nah, this stuff is not healthy, this stuff is toxic. I mean, obviously there's a balance in things, you know, when and when not to do things. But for me, to give you a little insight of me, like I'm like an all or nothing person, you know. So it's like for me, I'd rather do nothing, learn how to face these emotions, because I can't balance things. I lack the self-control on balancing things. So for me, I learned with my personality type is like I just can't do nothing, and like that'd better serve me instead of like trying to balance it, because balance it, I smoke one time, I'll be out one time, yeah, let's smoke. Next thing you know, I'm smoking 3 times a day, every day after that for however long, you know. And it's like I'd rather just know my boundaries now and be like, nah, I can't partake in that because I know where it's going to lead me. So thanks for sharing that, because that really resonated with me.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, it's a little deep. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
All right. So thank you for answering the ChatGPT generated question. I like those, to be honest with you, like using ChatGPT.
That's
like,
pretty good.
Yeah, once you learn how to like, at first I didn't know how to like type things into it.
Yeah.
And then once I learned like how to type what I want out of it, it gives me like these things. I'm
so
like,
useful.
Whoa, because like I don't like some of those things. Like if there's a tool that can make me do some of these things, then I could focus on the other little things I want to focus on. So, but I do have other questions for you. Since you are from Colorado, what aspects of Colorado appeal to you most?
I feel like people out here are really active, and not just in terms of fitness, but in terms of like trying to get things going. And I know that some people don't share that perspective, because I've had conversations with people where they feel like people in Colorado aren't really trying to do things or really connect. And I'm like, yeah, some people, but I feel like there is a big community who's down to like do some stuff. And I really like that about Colorado. I enjoy being fit and getting outdoors. I think we have a lot of natural beauty that's to be admired. And so I enjoy hiking. Outdoors, really, it just feels fresh. Being in Colorado, and moving outside of Colorado has made me appreciate those couple of things a lot more, because I lived in Ohio for graduate school, and there weren't a lot of active people around me. Like, I don't know, I've never been in a place that's as active as people in Colorado. I was in Missouri, and people were okay with being where they were, and they were okay with being where they were for years and years and years. And I was like, this isn't me. Like, I can't stay in this one position. I'm very much so about reflecting on who I am and making sure I have some growth in there. And I think it's important to, be moving your body. I've definitely fallen off at times, but Colorado lends itself to being active, or being able to provide you the resources to be that, whether it's mindfully or physically.
No, that's real. I can resonate with that a lot. Colorado does make, even if you're like not on it, like there's always people out here riding bike, running, doing something out here where you're like, damn, I got to get back on it.
Yeah.
So that resonates with me a lot, especially like I'm not from Colorado, I'm from New York, and when I moved here from New York, everyone would be like, yo, slow down, like, because New York is just so fast paced. And I didn't understand it at first. And now when I was in New York in March, and like I'm over there like, yo, chill, y'all, just breathe, like it's gonna be all right. Just in through your nose, out through your mouth, like we're gonna be all right. So I appreciate that aspect of Colorado too, because I couldn't move. I'm here. This is where I'm at now. It just took me 6 years to learn and appreciate, like, all right, what am I doing out here? If I didn't stay out here this long, you and I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I wouldn't be doing secular stuff. It sounds so funny when I say that. Do you know what secular means?
No.
So like in church, like if you listen to like let's say I'm paying attention to this rap beef going on right now, right? They're like, oh, that's secular music. Or like if I'm hanging out with people who are active in church or whatever, they're like, oh, those are your secular friends. And it's like a form of division. So I don't like that. Like I don't go to church, but I believe in God. I pray, I read the word, but I don't like what churches have ended up building, and which kind of keeps a lot of people away from religion. So it creates like this division, because they kind of paint it like you got to live this perfect picture or live this life. That's like, yo, y'all know y'all don't do that thing either. You just ain't here fronting, acting like you're this perfect person. Because at the end of the day, yeah, you want to be a part of a community, but it's like, is it worth it? So I just created a brand that was like, nah, I'm going to be like Jesus, and Jesus was in the world, helping people in the world. I want to be in the world with people who y'all wouldn't necessarily associate or be a part of. And I'm not going to create that division. I just want to spread unity and love. So that's why I say, when I say I'm doing secular things, it's like the church would be like, yeah, you probably are. Anyways, but a little background on secular. So yeah, Colorado's fire though, y'all. Don't move here though. Like,
please,
it's all right, just stop. I know I was one of those people that contributed, but I'm allowed to do that. They did that to my hood in New York. I lived in Williamsburg. Where I'm from in New York, it's called Williamsburg, and since you're from here, Rhino used to be like a bunch of warehouses. They kind of divided 5 points. It was 5 points, which would be considered like the hood, a rough area. I'm correct, right?
5 points, just traditionally black neighborhood.
But all right, so I'm just taking that away from when I've been taken away from it. Grew up in the same in New York, but then they took Williamsburg and they like converted it. They like made it this trendy area. They made it really nice. They have like all these things there, and I see the same thing happen to Rhino. So it's like it really resonates with me seeing Rhino, and like I can understand a lot of the locals why they feel some type of way. So yeah. One thing I'll share with you, which I think is dope out here, like all these people get these commissioned walls out here.
Oh, yes.
Right? People from, I don't know where, whoever, some of y'all might be from out here, I don't know. But then like the local painters, graffiti artists, they'll go over the walls and like they'll paint over the art. And a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how can they do that and all this stuff? And it's like, yo, imagine being from a neighborhood where this is your hood. You've been out here your whole life. And then you see these people get commissioned walls and stuff. And it's like, nah, they didn't pay the dues or the respects out here to like get this, like we should be getting this in a way, you know what I mean? So it's like I see like a little art war going on out here, and I love it. I love it. It's like, yeah, that was a fire mural, but like, yo, welcome to the streets. And
I feel like for me, it's like art either way. I really enjoy graffiti artists a lot. So street artwork is, one of the best art forms, I think. So.
Yeah, I mean, your shop is right in the dead center of it. You're in the Rhino area. Is that what you could call it, Rhino?
I will tell people that I am in the 5 Points Rhino area.
Okay.
So I say both because some people don't even know it as 5 Points. And I'm just like, well, let me just clarify for you, but also let you know where I'm at so you can come and visit me, which is why I still say Rhino.
Isn't that like a hard, like I find that as a struggle. Like I want to be a purist and true to myself. Yeah. But then I also want to like be progressive in a way, and like I want to be able to adapt. And because then how do we like for you or for me, like how do we network and build and create opportunities for ourselves and others if we're not actively doing that and being too hardcore purists? It's like, they got to find a healthy balance of it. Yeah.
It can be hard sometimes. But I think as a business owner, that's like one of the things you just have to navigate. Unless your business is very, focused on a specific target market where it's like, you know what, I don't care either way, you know, you're either gonna be here or you're not. But yeah.
Well, dope. Sorry, I got off track. Next question. You ready?
I am.
This kind of ties into the next one.
Okay.
I'm gonna do this one. This is dope. What is the most significant life experience that has shaped who you are today?
Oh goodness. Wow. Gosh, I feel like I've had so many. But I guess I'll talk about this because I feel like it's shaping where I want to go in the future, because I just don't imagine that I'll have eternal balance candles forever. I love to travel. My first experience traveling was back in 2011. Sounds like it was so
Mad long ago.
yeah, mad long ago. And I went to South Korea. It was my first country, and I studied abroad there, so I lived there for 4 months. And, you know, having that experience, I caught the travel bug. So I think I've been to 10 countries at this point. And I want to shape the next 2 to 3 years to be able to travel a lot more, because I like being immersed in different cultures and being able to navigate the world in a way that I wouldn't have if I was here, and also meet people that I wouldn't have if I was here. You know, I feel like the United States in some areas can be pretty diverse. We do have quite a few people from different countries. But again, I still feel like our society in some ways strips cultures. And so it's nice to be able to go somewhere and be able to experience them as they are. And yeah, South Korea was that for me, having that first experience. I stayed in Jochiwon. There's 2 Korea universities in Korea. And so there's one in Seoul and one in Jochiwon. And Jochiwon is a smaller town, so they weren't used to seeing Black people. So that was an interesting experience, because I'd have people coming up to me, and I think that tends, from what I hear, that tends to happen to a lot of folks in Asian countries, but specifically Jochiwon, because there's like no Black people there at all. Whereas Seoul, you have some people, especially because some people in the military get stationed there. But yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest life experiences. But I've had multiple, like just having to navigate the world on my own a bit, and like some of these things that I'm struggling through without having parents. You know, it took me a while to get to a place where it's just like, I'm going to experience this thing and they're just like not going to be there, you know? I was talking to somebody about this, and I was like, I was talking to one of my friends because their mom's going through a lot right now and has cancer. And I was like, I don't really know how to tell you or have the words to deal with what you're going through right now. Because she was talking about, you know, when she gets married, like having her mom there. And I'm like, the biggest thing that you just kind of have to do is figure out who your community is and have that look different, you know? So I asked my brother, who's not my brother, but my brother, like, hey, if I ever get married, will you walk me down the aisle? Because, you know, I don't have a dad to walk me down the aisle. You know, so I look at those things differently. I don't know what my life would be like if I still had them and they passed away now. Sometimes I feel like that would be harder. I think about my own friends, and I'm like, when that time comes for them, like, what will that look like for them? I don't know. But those would probably be the biggest pieces, is like my travel experiences, because I think it has helped open me up to being accepting of a lot of different people. And I am also not, like, I don't subscribe to any particular religion. And part of that came from that South Korea experience, because we were there and we were at this Buddhist temple, and they were like, yeah, do you want to do the 108 vows with us in the temple? And for me, I'm always open-minded, so I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Mm-hmm. And then there were some other people that were there like, this is against our religion, like, we don't want to do this. Like, I had one of my friends saying I was gonna go to hell for worshiping more than one God, and I'm just like, no. So I feel like having that experience, I'm a lot more open to people. But then not having my parents has forced me to navigate the world in a different way, that I am grateful for. But sometimes I am like, fuck, I'm struggling right now. I wish I could just move back home for a little bit and, have something to fall back on without always having to move forward. Mm-hmm. Like, it's hard. Like, I just want to rest. Like, I'm probably gonna cry right now because of that, because, like, I feel like I've been fighting against life for so long. I just want to chill. So
thanks for sharing that. I know it was a little deep.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm very emotional. I'm a crier all the time. Cried yesterday, cry today,
that's
cry
good.
Tomorrow probably.
Crying is like a form of release.
Yeah.
You're like releasing that. I mean, I feel that. So you've traveled a lot. Besides your own culture, what's like your other favorite culture? On a brighter note.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't say I have a favorite, but like, I would say what's probably drawn me the most, because I want to learn Spanish. So I grew up around a lot of like the Latino community. Like, a lot of my friends were Latino, Latina. Like, I'm in a sorority that's Latina based, Pi Lambda Chi Latina Sorority Incorporated, for life. And I love, all my sisters. And I would move to Spain. And I know that, like, Europe, Spain's, can be different than like if you're going to Mexico, because Mexico City's a place that I've considered moving to too. But I would say that's probably my favorite, but a culture, or a place that I do want to explore that I haven't had the chance to yet, where I would also consider moving, is Bali. So I would love to check out Indonesia and see what that's like over there.
Fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Spanish culture is very different. Like, Spanish is obviously gets derived back to Spain, Spaniard. Yeah. And then there's like these little ones. So you have like South America, which is like, if you even ask like the Mexican culture, South Americans are wild different.
It's so vast.
Yep. And then you have Mexico, which is right below us. And then, like, for me, I'm Puerto Rican. And then you have like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, and Cubans. And I feel like us island Latin folk, like us three, have a lot in common. So that's dope. Yeah. Fire. Spaniard. But yeah, the Indonesia and Bali, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that. Mine would be, I love Brazil and like Brazilian culture.
Yeah.
Especially like Brazilian music, like ballet, ballet funk is. Mm-mm. It's a form of Brazilian music, but it's in like Portuguese, like the language is Portuguese that they speak in. And like, I'm always, when I make music, I like look for like Brazilian or like Portuguese samples, just because I love the way it sounds. It sounds so sexy. But yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I love that.
Yeah. The world's so big, y'all. Just so y'all know that. The world's so big. Don't be just stuck in your city. I know you obviously build on something, build a community, build your brand, do whatever you're doing. But go explore. Like, the world is so big and we have such a short life. I love exploring. I haven't explored in a little bit, but I've been to some places. But it's not about me, it's about you.
I know, I'm like, it's been a few years. I need to go somewhere.
I asked you that. You kind of already answered that in a way, so I'm not going to answer you that. All right, this is a good one, so in case anyone was curious, and this would be you sharing knowledge. Can you describe the process of developing your candle products from conception to production, including any challenges you've encountered along the way?
Yeah, honestly, most of the challenges are probably environmental. Like, when you're making a candle, the room temperature can affect the way that it cures. So I use soy wax. It tends to create sinkholes naturally. It doesn't solidify perfectly like a more chemically made wax like paraffin would. So before I sell my candle, I'm typically heat gunning the tops just to make sure the holes are filled. So those are like some of the challenges, and probably measurements. My own memory is a challenge. So if you see some of my videos, like some of the pouring pictures, I write the name of the candle on there, and then I'll put like a check mark just to make sure like I'm checking the temperatures and things like that, because I tend to forget. Or when I'm measuring out the wax, I use my calculator, and somehow I still mess up on measurements. I don't understand. Like the other day, I intended to make 30 candles and ended up, I think, making like 27 because my measurements were off. And normally I would have freaked out. But I think now that I have more patience, it's easier for me to navigate those things. But to start out, really, like I have a 45-pound box of wax, and I measure that out with however many candles I'm gonna make, and I use a wax melter. Some people will make the candle in the wax melter, so like put the fragrance in there too, but I don't, because I feel like my wax melter, when I'm pouring the wax, tends to come out in different temperatures, even though you set it to one temperature and I leave it there for 2 hours before I start making candles, it comes out differently. So I always pour the wax in the pouring pitcher, and then you have to pay attention to temperature, and that's where the patience comes from, and that's where most of the process ends up becoming a long process, because you're waiting for specific temperatures to do things. And so for me specifically, I try to make sure the wax doesn't go higher than 200 degrees. And then I put my fragrance in at 160 degrees. And I haven't told anybody that before, but because most people will tell you put it in at 175. I think that's too high, because when you are thinking about a candle, that whole time from when you put the fragrance in to when it solidifies, it's curing. So it's like still burning off fragrance in a way. And so I found, for me, based on my process, that 160 and the fragrance I use is a good sweet spot. And then I'll pour it in the vessel jar at 135 degrees. And so just making sure the wick is placed in there. I use wick bars to center it, because a lot of people are like, how do you get it so center? It's not just me, y'all. It's a wick bar to keep the wick in place. And then, just wait till it's done. Sometimes a candle will finish and it doesn't burn correctly. Like even after 6 years, like I still have candles that I mess up on, or I'll smell a candle and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, can you smell this? Like I can't smell anything, because I'm around them so much. And I'm like, I'm not going to sell this if you can't even smell it. And I think that's what makes my business so good as well, is if I don't have a solid product, I'm not selling, even if it hurts me, because I think a lot of people are like, just sell, which is fine, not knocking you. But if my product is not up to the standard that I expect it to be, then I'm not going to sell it. So, but that's most of the process, and that's very simplified. But yeah, you measure out the fragrance oil. I use 10% of fragrance oil to the ounces of wax, but you can use up to 12% depending on the fragrance. And then different fragrances have different flash points, which I don't actually pay attention to as much, but it just tells you, the flash point that you can't go over, when you're putting it in the wax and stuff like that. And then it can also help you gauge which fragrances to put together, but I don't pay attention because I just do it based on which fragrances smell good together. And so, yeah, that's the process.
That sounds like you just learn like by doing. You were doing, and you learned over time, and you learned what works for you, and you would have never learned that if you didn't go out and do it.
Exactly. Yeah, it is just learning by doing, and then learning what works, exactly what you said. and just adjusting otherwise, because I was making all of them in my apartment, so I'd be able to adjust temperature, like, okay, I got to make sure I have my AC on for this reason. I'm in my shop now, the temperature is different, and I just got to kind of deal with that. So.
Wow, damn, couldn't be me making candles. Thank God for people like you.
I know. Does anyone want to help me make candles?
Thank God.
It's so much work.
Like I could talk to you forever, it seems like, but I want to be mindful of your time. One last question I'm gonna ask you, and then we'll kind of start wrapping this up. I'm a lover of earth.
Okay.
As you can see, I'm trying to incorporate more plants into my environment. Clean my air. They're just good, which the fire about plants is like you give them, they give us oxygen. We give them carbon dioxide. Is that the right thing? No. What do we give plants?
Carbon dioxide. Yes.
I think that's it. If I'm wrong,
yes,
if you're smart out there,
monoxide.
Let me know. I'm not a scholarly person, so
he's intelligent, just he's knocking himself down right now.
But anyways, so what is your favorite thing about Earth?
And I'm an earth sign, Virgo, through and through. Like all my signs, sun, moon, and rising are all earth signs. If anyone's into astrology. But what I like about the earth, I think it's just when you stop and look, because I think sometimes we're just go. It's just, there's so much beauty to admire. And I think what's beautiful about that is it helps you be present. And I feel like for me, I learn from the plants around me. So if you've seen my place, I have so many plants, and I truly believe that they have helped me a lot, because when they're not doing good, then that's a sure sign that I'm not doing good. Especially if I haven't watered them for weeks. So I have mostly low maintenance plants for that reason, because I'm able to be like, oh shoot, like you've been sad for a while. I need to check in with myself. I've been sad for a while, because normally if they've gone without water, it's because I can't get myself to even get up and water them. And then I admire that, also about the earth, or just like things growing, is that there's patience in that. For me, sometimes I can be impatient, and they teach you patience. Going from seed to roots to, seeing this beautiful thing is a whole process that takes a lot of time. Or even looking at the leaves and seeing how, like they die and then some grow back, and seeing how like the lesson in that is like there are some things you just got to let go for other things to come in. And so that's what I like a lot about it.
And you talk to your plant. We talked on Instagram about this recently, about you talking to your plants.
Yes.
So you talk to your plants?
I do talk to my plants. I haven't talked to them as much lately. And that's what I said on Instagram. I was like, what's wrong with me is the fact that I haven't been talking to my plants. They all have names. Not every single one of them, but majority of them have names. And I'm very intentional about that too. Like all my Pathos plants are characters from the X-Men. And all of my monsteras are like something to do with the galaxy. Like, well, I have one plant named Galaxy, and then the plant from that one is named Saturn. So I'm very intentional about that. A little bit nerdy about it, but yeah, I love plants.
No, I agree. I'm big on talking to plants too. That really resonates though, what you said, like when, depending on how your life is, it reflects your plants. I have a plant over there that you don't see, but I'll show you it. I used to have it in my videos, and it was like it was doing so much. It was like doing so well, this plant. But like when I bought the plant, I bought this pot for it. Mm-hmm. And the people who sold me the plant and the pot, they probably should have told me like, yo, this pot isn't good for this plant because the way this plant needs to be watered and the way it needs drainage. The pot didn't have drainage. So the plant was doing really, really well. But over time, when I would look at the soil, you could tell it was getting like white in it and it was getting moldy.
Yeah.
And then obviously I had to repot it. So like I repotted it, and it's getting back to life. But at that point in my life though, I wasn't doing well though. You know what I mean? And like I saw it, I noticed it, but I was like, I know. And it just took me some time to be like, nah, I need to address this. You know what I mean? And it took me some time to address the things I was going through in my life too. And then you learn to be patient though. Like my new plants in the back, for y'all who's seeing these are new.
Yes.
They're my little rescue plants. I rescued them from Home Depot.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, but what I've learned about plants is that especially with that one over there and even the big one, that patience, it's a process. So like, yeah, there's some things about them, they have their little blemishes, but I have my blemishes. But I know like if I nurture them, love them, take care of them, you know, like I know how to properly water plants, train them now, and like making like a homemade fertilizer and these kinds of things. Like I know they will grow and flourish over time.
Yeah.
So like being patient is what I'm learning, and I'm going to be patient with those girls over there. All plants are girls. You want to hear a funny joke about why I call things girls? Right. So I have a friend and my bike over there in the back. When I first got my bike, she was like, what are you going to name her? And I was like, why is it got to be a girl? Why can't it be a guy? She goes, you want to ride a guy? I was like, hey, yo, nah. You got that one. So everything's a girl. So yeah, I agree though. I like speaking to things.
Yeah.
Even when I come home, I'm like, hey, home, how are you? And like everything just has life. And I feel like if you speak life into it, it gives you life back.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that. Lastly, on my question for you, what is success to you?
Yeah. This question was a little bit difficult for me because I feel like I'm navigating that question right now in terms of what do I want my life to look like in the next year or so, and making sure that what I'm doing is still aligning with who I am authentically. And so I don't have a particular answer for it, but I think as long as I'm still reflecting on who I am and continuing to, you know, kind of what you were talking about, deprogram, you know, unlearn the ways that I have been through survival mode. That's success to me, because there's a lot of unlearning to be done there. I think the way that I've been through survival mode has gotten me where I am today, and that's great. I love that. I appreciate my body, my mind for getting me here. But I don't think that programming is going to get me to where I would like to be and where I need to be and what I want for my life. So I'm trying to learn to be in a space of presence and thriving and enjoying life more, which I think also makes it even harder to do the things I need to do to support myself when it comes to just capitalism in general, like needing to pay my bills, needing to have money for just about everything, the way inflation is, because I want to live a softer life, you know? Like I think there's balance and hustle and flow, and I want more of the flow part, just because I feel like I've been just doing so much. Like I said, I want to rest more. I want to enjoy life more. I want to enjoy the people that I love more. And that kind of leads, and this is kind of getting off of topic of success, but that kind of leads to what I've been focusing on a lot this week, or hearing a lot this week, which is community. You know, when you take a look at the statistics as you get older, as far as like how much you're alone, it increases greatly as you get older. And I think that's just sad as shit. And it sucks. And I want to be in community. And I want people to know that the people that I like and that I love, that we're going to be in community and they can't get rid of me, and we're going to figure it out, because next to food, water, and shelter, the next thing you need, in my opinion, is community, that we don't talk about enough. We need people. You know, some people will act like they don't care about that, or, oh no, I'm good with being alone. And it's like, no, actually, I know you're not. Mm-hmm. You can say that if you want. You can act like you don't care, but everyone needs community, and community that's going to help them thrive. So I've been processing that a lot more. And I think that's why I'm really enjoying the run club. I'm not a big runner. Like, yeah, I did track and cross country in high school. No, I wasn't crazy fast. But it's because there's community there, and there's community aligned with something that gets me to be healthier in my life. So for me, that's like success is just how can I enjoy life more and do things that align with my interests to where I'm not going to regret later on working so much and not enjoying what life is and what it can provide.
No, that's deep. You also said something earlier. When you get older, y'all, in life, like at my age or like you said your age, it's harder to build and connect with people. And I feel like because a lot of people be stuck in their ways or like they don't want to change or accept other people for who they are. But I agree with you. Like y'all fronting if y'all like, yeah, we need alone time and stuff like that.
For sure.
But we weren't designed to be alone. We were all designed, like we all seek, whether it be a relationship, friendships, we need some sort of community. And I agree with you because I'm alone a lot, but it's like, that's why I started this. Like, I need to build community, meet with people, talk to people. I just can't be working and being alone. So yeah, y'all, that's deep.
Yes.
Keep people around you. Don't be alone. And lastly, do you have any questions for me?
I don't. Yeah, I don't have any current questions, but like you said, I feel like we could be talking here all day.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have things that like I just gotta like skate over because it's like I want to be mindful of time. We gotta go outside and shoot. But thank you for coming on. This was a dope conversation. We touched on some real like deep things and about personal life and personal experience that hopefully resonates. Not even I know it will resonate with a lot of people. Like I said, there's power in being vulnerable and sharing our stories and breakthroughs, and I feel like that's deep. So thank you for sharing that. Is there anything? How can people contact you? How can people reach you? Let them know.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me. And you can reach me by following me on Instagram at Eternal Balance Candles. And, my Instagram is the K word. People are like, what's the word? And I'm just like, that's not what it is. But it's fine because that's what it looks like. But it's the K word, the Kimberlee Ward. You can follow me there as well if you want to follow my personal page. Other than that, just hit me up. Slide by the shop, 2590 Walnut Street.
Or Google Green Spaces.
Google Green Spaces.
That's how I found it. Also, I'm glad you explained your Instagram name because it's funny you said that. I thought it was like something in terms of like awkward and that you were awkward and that was your way of verbalizing it.
I tend to be awkward, but that is not what it is. So
just being honest.
For everyone, it's okay. People are like, what the heck is that? I'm like, does anyone remember THEE? We don't use it as much, but
nah. All right, well, dope. This was dope. Episode 7, the Let's Meet show on Sekular, brought to you by your boy, Mike Extra.
Hey.
Have a good day, y'all. Peace. Give him a little peace sign. Look at the camera and say, peace.
Peace. Very millennial.